Good evening, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you for your patience. We needed to wait for a few people to get to arrive. Board members, I would like to call this meeting to order. And we will have approval of the agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor? Okay, thank you. Policy 1-13 for public hearing states, the purpose of a public hearing is for the Board of Education to hear views expressed by its citizens and to gather information pertinent to issues or decisions that must be made or under deliberation by the board. At the hearing, the board is not in session to answer questions, but is here solely to gather information and opinions. The following are proposed procedures pursuant to Policy 1-13. 1. The purpose of this hearing is for the Board of Education to hear from the public on realignment. Comments on matters unrelated to realignment will not be heard tonight, and the speaker can request to be placed on a list for public comments at an upcoming regular board meeting. 2, the hearing will conclude at 8 p.m. 3, individuals may address the board for a maximum of 3 minutes. Any person who is representing a group may address the board for a maximum of 5 minutes. If a speaker purports to represent a group, they should be authorized to be here tonight from that group and will be the only speaker allowed to represent that group for the 5 minutes. Additional speakers from the same organization, neighborhood, or group will then be allowed 3 minutes. Prior to beginning, each speaker shall state his or her name and address. Persons representing the group must identify the group. Speakers will be called upon in the order in which they signed up. Any person not present when we get to their name will forfeit their time. Any board member needing clarification or additional information from the speaker may ask once recognized by the chair. Board, I will entertain a motion to accept these procedures.
I so move.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, we will begin with the first speaker, Mrs. Stalbert.
I will call the speakers up 3 at a time. First, we have Ashley Panchak, Jonathan Fournier, Aaron Nessman. In that order, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Ashley Panchak, and I live at 2035 Westminster Lane, Matthews, North Carolina, 28104. I am a proud parent of a second grader at Fairview Elementary, and I also live in the Buckingham neighborhood. Since 2001, our neighborhood has been redistricted 3 times, switching between the Porter Ridge cluster and the Piedmont cluster. With the new proposal from the Realignment Committee, the committee is now asking us to transition back to the Porter Ridge cluster, which is already over capacity. And according to Dr. McKibben's report, the student enrollment in the Porter Ridge cluster specifically does not show student enrollment decreasing, unlike many of the other clusters in the district. Along with that, over the last 10 years, our schools have been continuously asked to do more with less, as ADM in all of our schools has continuously decreased. And yet, more recently, our Title I and high priority schools have had additional funds reallocated to them in order to address their needs. But as student enrollment in these schools continues in the Porter Ridge cluster goes to, or is going to be increased, I ask you, how is this proposal for my cluster specifically in the best interest of the Piedmont cluster and in the best interest of our students, especially considering the fact that we are likely to look at this process again in 5 years, plus or minus 2. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jonathan Fournier. My residence is 2002 Orby Avenue in Indian Trail, North Carolina, 28079. Good evening, Dr. Houlihan and board members. I thank you for this opportunity to speak to you tonight. This evening, we strongly urge the board to change Planning Block 186, which is the Sheridan and Wexford development, to the Wesley Chapel and Weddington cluster. I would like to offer a suggestion how to make this possible. Having been in attendance at all the meetings, my understanding is that utilization was a very large part of the deciding map being provided to the board. We have taken utilization into account, but have also put the children first and have been able to reduce the impact by 448 students with our proposed change. Planning blocks 425, 84, and 85 are currently attending Western Union and Parkwood schools. If they are moved as suggested in MAP Plan BF1, that will place the elementary students into their third school. They started in Newtown, then Western Union, and in the proposed plan, they will be in Wesley Chapel. The elementary student live-in numbers for those blocks total 133 students. We propose that you leave these children in Western Union Elementary, placing the utilization from 78% to 99%. Place Planning Block 186 back into Wesley Chapel Elementary, where they currently go now, where utilization will go from 93% down to 90%. Keep Planning Blocks 425, 84, and 85 at Parkwood Middle School, totaling of 85 children, and at Parkwood High School, totaling 96 students, would also help mitigate the utilization numbers. Parkwood Middle would go from 81 to 89%. Utilization in the high school would go from 76 to 83%. Place Planning Block 186 back into Weddington Middle School would put the utilization from 102 to 104, which is only 50 students across 3 grades. The high school utilization at Weddington would go from 85% to 87% with that change. This change also affects the numbers at Cuthbertson Middle School, 94% down to 88% utilization. Cuthbertson High School, putting them from 93 to 87. And also affects Sun Valley Middle School, making the utilization from 101, lowering it to below 100 at 99%. Sun Valley High School would actually decrease, going down 93 to 91% utilization. The above proposed plan puts only 1 middle school over utilization versus the 2 that are currently listed in MAP BF1. This also reduces the students, again, impacted by 448. I thank you all for your time. I appreciate your dedication to helping our children in county schools. We hope that when you see what we have proposed, you too will notice the importance of impacting less students while evening out the utilization for future growth in the county. Have a wonderful evening.
My name is Erin Nessman. I live at 2901 White Locust Court, Matthews, North Carolina, 28104. Originally, I was not going to speak tonight. I never received a response to any of the emails I sent to the Realignment Committee. And the response I did receive from the Board of Education made me feel as though the cost of busing outweighed any other factor in this realignment. The importance was not on what was best for the children, but on the cost. But then, another Fairview mother, who is also a neighbor, was laid to rest today. And I felt that I should continue to fight for her children as well as mine. So, according to the most recent proposal that has been put out to the public, Fairview Elementary will be only utilized at 50% capacity. You will have to heat and cool an entire school with only 50% of the children there. 6 of the teachers will have to leave. Teachers that call this place home, not just a job. Those coworkers are a family. This school is in the country. It is a rural school. And to put any children in this school, you are going to have to bus them in. And yes, busing costs money, but busing from anywhere is going to cost money. It's also true that a lot of families want to stay here. We love it here. Our children love it here. My neighborhood was realigned 3 years ago. As educators, we all know that consistency is beneficial in any educational setting. But for children, for these children, you continue to uproot them. We were not realigned 3 years ago because of overcrowding in the elementary school. That is not the problem, but it's because of the middle and high school. You're taking us back to the Porter Ridge cluster, and therefore you're taking us back a step. This new plan is supposed to last 10 years originally, but now, thanks to all the hands that were put into this, it now may last 3 to 7 years. I have spoken to Mr. McKibben. You have spent lots of money on his expertise, but you have not taken it. It makes no sense to use the plan that has been put before you. His original plans, for example, Plan A, has fewer children being moved across the country.
Thank you very much.
Our next three speakers are Becky Edwards, Christine Carroll, and Michael Babcock.
Good evening, Dr. Houlihan and board members. Again, thank you for this opportunity to speak with you tonight. As Jonathan Fournier spoke about just a bit ago, I'd like to strongly urge the board to change Planning Block 186 back to the Weddington cluster. Voting to keep our children in the Sun Valley School cluster is voting to keep our children from the following. Weddington High School is ranked number 2 in Union County and ranked 510th in the nation. Sun Valley High School is second to last and is not even nationally ranked. Weddington High School has a 100% graduation rate. Sun Valley is at 87%. 75% of Weddington High School students are enrolled in passing AP classes, but only 29% of Sun Valley students are in their AP classes. Weddington High School hosts 29 academic clubs and organizations. Sun Valley offers 10. Weddington High School provides a safer environment with 70% less criminal activity and suspensions, and provides a more stable environment with 50% less teacher turnover than Sun Valley. Please understand that this is not a lateral redistricting for our children, like a Weddington to Cuthbertson or Cuthbertson to Weddington. This is an educational demotion. It is our expectation that our children have every educational opportunity at its disposal. We want them to attend school within the Weddington cluster. Please give them that opportunity.
Good evening. My name is Christine Carroll, and I'm at 8140 Calistoga Lane in Waxhaw, North Carolina. And my phone number is 704-752-9829. I appreciate the time to speak tonight in front of the board, and I hope you'll listen to what we're trying to ask for. I know the Realignment Committee had put a lot of time and effort into this. It was voluntary, and I know this was a thankless, or can be a thankless effort. But I do appreciate all they have done. A little bit about myself. I'm a mother of 3 children, currently part of the Cuthbertson cluster, rising 6th grader to begin middle school in 2018, a rising 10th grader at Cuthbertson High School, and a graduating senior at CATA, which I look forward to being back here in June. I'm asking the board to reconsider for PB 349 to keep us in the Cuthbertson cluster. A little about my history with Union County Public Schools. During the last redistricting, we lived in St. John's Forest, where we built a home originally part of the Weddington cluster Later, were moved to Sun Valley. And then as part of the last redistricting, we were moved to the Monroe Middle School and High School. At that time, my eldest daughter was starting high school and my son middle school. Thankfully, my daughter got into CATA after being waitlisted due to the 300% increase in applicants that year. There were no other options for my son, so he went on to Monroe Middle. Living in a large neighborhood, we gave it a chance. Unfortunately, my son was in AIG and Monroe Middle was not prepared for the challenges that the new population of students in AIG brought them. After 1 year, we sold our house and moved to a smaller neighborhood in the Cuthbertson cluster. We lost a lot that year. Our son is now thriving in the Cuthbertson cluster and this new realignment plan is moving our small neighborhood to the Marvin cluster. I understand there may be the option of grandfathering our son because he is a rising 10th grader. However, that leaves us a split family because I do have a rising 6th grader. She will then need to go to Marvin. That's just going to cause a really big hardship. As I've requested in several emails to the board since November to the realignment committee since November that have gone unanswered, I request that Providence Grove not be moved to Marvin. There are several reasons or issues that should be addressed. I truly believe in the hard boundary issue. Several neighborhoods were given a leave to stay in their neighborhood because of the hard boundaries. We live right on Providence Road, and our neighborhood's going to have to be moved across Providence Road at Bonds Grove to have to get to the school. There are so many neighborhoods, such as Millbridge, that were moved up and could very easily go up Waxhaw Marvin Road to go to Marvin.
Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Michael Babcock. I live at 8016 Penman Springs Drive in Waxhaw, also in the Providence Grove neighborhood. To continue what Christine was just talking about, our neighborhood, according to the October 20th memo from the Transportation Committee, Providence Road was supposed to be a hard boundary. Okay, we are the only planning block that has to cross Providence Road. That puts our teenagers in a very dangerous situation. We're going to have new drivers driving on one of the worst roads. Bonds Grove Church Road is one of the most dangerous roads we have in our area. Okay, there have been at least a dozen accidents or near accidents that I know of in the 10 years that I've lived there. Just people not paying attention on the windy roads and running people off the road. In addition, this is the third change for us. I have a 4th grader, and this will be his 3rd elementary school if this plan goes forward. Okay. That it does not promote any kind of continuity whatsoever. Right. You're talking about moving 12% of the elementary school kids around, which means you're moving 1 out of every 8 or 3 children per class are being yanked and moving someplace else. That is not good for their development. We've, as a community, have spent a lot of time writing to the realignment committee, trying to get their attention to take a look at our situation. We've been ignored. Okay. I asked Mr. Cropper about it at the end of the last meeting, and he claimed that it was something that they discussed. It was never discussed in an open meeting. They've ignored us all along. Okay. Now, they may have had some backroom conversations, but it was never discussed in the public forum. Okay. And his response to us was, well, too bad. You don't have enough, you don't have the right numbers for us to move you. We need people in the Marvin cluster. You're the most convenient. You get to go. That's not a real rationale for violating the recommendations of the Transportation Committee. I ask you to put Planning Block 439 back in the Cuthbertson cluster. It's in our backyard. It's the place where our kids have all grown up. We've built that school. We've helped build that school, I should say. Okay. We've been there since it opened. Thank you.
Our next 3 speakers are Jonathan Weisberg, Danielle Schaffer, and Eileen Allen.
Good evening. My name is Jonathan Weisberg. I am at 2622 Cricket Cove. That's in Waxhaw in the Providence Farms subdivision. Good evening. I want to first thank you all very much for taking time out of your night to allow us to have public input at this forum. And thank you for investing in our communities, in our students, and our schools. We understand there's a lot that goes into this realigning consideration. And we know you've probably exhausted a lot of this over the last months or even years. And for that, we are truly grateful. As I said, we're in the Providence Farms neighborhood, which is in the Camberley section in that cluster there. It is along Providence Road, right in the heart of Waxhaw. At one time, that neighborhood, along with the others, attended Cuthbertson cluster. It is a mere 3.4 miles from Cuthbertson campus. And currently students within those neighborhoods where they reside are attending Parkwood Middle and High School, which is interesting because Parkwood is the fourth furthest school from our residents. Yes, the fourth furthest. That means anyone who has students within Camberley and Providence Farms neighborhoods would have to travel potentially beyond 3 schools that would be closer. That would be 7.8 miles, 5.7 miles, and then Cuthbertson at the very closest. Parkwood is approximately 10 miles away, and as some of the other parents have expressed, this really puts students and parents and bus drivers in their vehicles and buses for over 20 minutes with lights, traffic turns, dangers. The bigger issue also is when you're talking about schools and the community impact, this would pose a setup in which we're not even a part of the actual community. You're asking folks to attend schools that are not even really respectively within that community. It creates an entirely different paradigm for students who may attend extracurricular activities after school, whether it be sports, theater, time with friends. It's not even close. At one time, it was, like I said, at part of Cuthbertson, which would suggest there was some thought around that and some rationale as to why they went to Cuthbertson. So I'm not sure where things have migrated since that time. But we talked a lot about taxpayer money and efficiency and transportation costs. And if those are still paramount to some of this decision-making, I think it's a direct contradiction with this proposed plan for realignment when you look at it. And if that is still a consideration, efficiency, community involvement, community schools, our proposal will be that Providence Farms and Camberley become a part of the Cuthbertson district. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Danielle Schaffer. I'm speaking on behalf of the Western Union Elementary School PTO. I happen to be part of the PTO. I also live in the Briarcrest development, which has been, a big discussion in the last year. I have 4 children, all of which have attended Western Union and 3 who currently attend Western Union. Myself and several other parents are concerned about the negative impact option BF1 will have on utilization, student body, staffing, and overall well-being of Western Union. The current enrollment there is 609 students. The capacity is 601. Option BF1 will reduce our student body by at least 25%, bringing our enrollment down to between 398 and 467 students with a capacity of 600, moving some kids for their 3rd time. This will reduce Western Union facility utilization to 78%, making it the 2nd lowest utilization percentage of Union County after the realignment. Wesley Chapel, which is where we would be going within the realignment, is at 93%, with a neighborhood being built right behind my house that would then be also going to Wesley Chapel, depending on whether it ends up a 55 and over community or not, which still has to be determined. This would, of course, raise Wesley Chapel's utilization again above 93%, again with Western Union's being extremely low. We question how BF1 will impact the dual language program at Western Union. There are 27 dual language students that reside in the affected neighborhoods. If BF1 is approved, the parents of those 27 will be responsible providing their own transportation to and from school. And while many of these parents are willing to provide the necessary transportation to keep their kids at Western Union and in the program, life circumstances change. Is the county going to keep the program at Western Union if numbers begin to dwindle over the next 2 years? Is the dual language program going to be allowed to remain at Western Union with minimal students in each grade level classroom? If not, what will happen to our children who are in the dual language program? And there goes another group of students removed from Western Union, decreasing utilization yet again. Volunteers. Under BF1, Western Union loses over a third of its active volunteers, the volunteer base, and half of the PTO exec board. These are volunteers that are additional support to teachers, staff, to the teachers and staff who are there weekly. The volunteers are there weekly, sometimes daily. These are the volunteers that plan the fundraisers that raise funds to go directly back to that school. Now, I have no doubt that our Western Union family will step up if the option BF1 is approved, but it will really hit the PTO right in the gut, as well as the students and staff. The PTO, whose mission is to provide for the students, teachers, and staff of Western Union. The financial impact. The neighborhoods due to be aligned contributed 25% towards the fall 2016 fundraiser, amounting to almost $3,200. Those same neighborhoods contributed 40% of income during this past fall fundraiser. 40%. That's a huge chunk of money that goes right back into the student body and school to help our teachers teach our students to the best of their ability. The Billy Howie corridor of neighborhoods, including Tuscany, both sides of Briarcrest, and Oak Hill Plantation, contributed over $10,000 of the $14,000 raised this past fall. These families contributed to this large amount, even knowing that the threat of the realignment was in their future. Reducing the student body by 25% also means staff will be transferred to other schools. The same teachers and staff who have worked so hard with Mrs. Williford and Miss Anderson to raise the school grade from a D to a B, in 4 years. I'm representing the parent-teacher organization right now. There are several teachers who prefer to remain anonymous, who do not want to leave Western Union and are concerned about their future. I know I have many neighbors who want to return to Cuthbertson at any cost, it seems, but myself and several others are very concerned about the impact the realignment will have on Western Union and the students that will remain there. The students impacted by BF1 will have to go to their third elementary school. Please consider allowing the neighborhoods south of Newtown Road to stay at Western Union. Consider having Western Union be a split feeder elementary school instead of Wesley Chapel being a split feeder elementary school. There has to be an option whereby Western Union does not lose so much. Please consider a compromise to save Western Union. This would be a compromise for those of us who want to stay at Western Union and those who want to return to Cuthbertson at any cost. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Eileen Allen. I live at 8212 Brisbane Drive in Waxhaw, North Carolina, 28173. I live in the Providence Grove community, part of Planning Block 439, which combines neighborhoods Providence Grove and Inverness. We are in the Cuthbertson cluster. We have been Cuthbertson since Cuthbertson opened in 2009. We wish to remain Cuthbertson, not Marvin. In October or November, 3 of the 4 maps had us staying at Cuthbertson cluster. When dwindled down to 2, we assumed 1 or possibly 2 of the maps would have us continuing at Cuthbertson. However, in November, December, 0 options had us at Cuthbertson. The maps were posted with option F, option B West, and option BF1 East. I interpreted, like many people, there were 3 maps, but BF1 East and B West were 1 map. How would you know that? They had different names. It was very confusing. Prior to the survey, those maps should have been merged and named clearly, like option H and option I, so as not to be confused with earlier maps. Many who went to fill out the survey said they didn't fill it out because they couldn't understand the maps. So the last survey was not completely accurate. At the December 14th meeting, I questioned the Cuthbertson committee member on how in November we went from 3 out of 4 options, Cuthbertson, to 0 out of 2 options and putting us at Marvin. The committee member just said it is a matter of numbers. Marvin needs numbers, which is hard to hear It is just numbers when my son has been greatly impacted. He had to move schools as a rising third grader, and now as a rising seventh grader will have to move to a whole new cluster. And he is one of the many that are affected. In mid-December, I learned that Weddington Chase was moved from Marvin on the map options to all Weddington options. If Marvin needs numbers, why move them back to Weddington? I believe part of that argument was using Providence Road as the hard line. As mentioned earlier in the memo from Mandy Benton to Marlon Watson in October of last year, she stated Providence Road being a high traffic area. Providence Road should be a hard boundary from Mecklenburg County line to Cuthbertson Road, which I agree, which supports our planning block remaining Cuthbertson as we are east of Providence Road. The traffic patterns in the afternoon from Marvin to our neighborhood are very concerning. It leaves the buses and youth drivers having to turn at a very busy intersection with no traffic light and have to cross traffic to get into our neighborhood, which is located right on Providence Road, in the afternoon at the busiest time of day. This is not safe. Even Dr. McKibben commented on what a mess Providence Road is. At the last Realignment Committee meeting, 10 changes were proposed based on emails in the survey. 9 of those changes were accepted, and the reasoning for most was impact. 1 planning block was moved out of Marvin back to Weddington, even putting Weddington Middle School at 105% capacity. At no time was our neighborhood appeal even discussed, even though we completed surveys and sent emails, which was very disheartening.
Thank you very much for your comments.
Thank you.
Our next 3 speakers are Shannon Louse, Megan Harrell, and David Eaton.
Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak individually tonight in regards to the current realignment process. My name is Shannon Louse, and our family lives in the Emerald Lake neighborhood off of Lawyers Road. I have a daughter in 5th grade at Fairview Elementary and a son in 8th grade at Piedmont Middle. I'm speaking tonight to ask you to please consider implementing a sibling policy for the younger siblings of high school students. My family has been a part of the Piedmont cluster since 2009, and our sense of community and family is within the Piedmont cluster. Through our son, we have experienced exceptional teachers, wonderful communication, and a small school feel that we want both of our children to experience at Piedmont. My son will be attending Piedmont High School starting next year, the 2018-19 school year, and will finish his schooling in the Piedmont cluster where he started. I ask that you will allow my daughter, as well as many other children, the same opportunity by way of a sibling policy. With the upcoming implementation of MAP BF1 as part of the realignment process, my daughter will be reassigned to Porter Ridge Middle School. We believe that keeping our children together at Piedmont is more beneficial to our family overall, as opposed to splitting our children between 2 clusters. Allowing our daughter to attend the Piedmont cluster will allow for a single drop-off and pickup for both children at once on a single campus, as opposed to having to travel to 2 different campuses to drop off and pick up. This is not just pertinent for drop-offs and pickups, but also for extracurricular activities and events at the schools. Allowing my daughter to attend Piedmont Middle also enables her to continue to go to the same school with the same children, friends, and families that she has been with since before kindergarten. I also believe that having both of our children at Piedmont will allow our whole family to support one school in terms of time, money, and overall pride, as opposed to having to divide these resources between Piedmont and Porter Ridge. I hope that you can see the benefits such as these by offering a sibling policy. Thank you for your time.
Hi, my name is Megan Harrell, and I reside at 7004 Broadleaf Court in Indian Trail, North Carolina, 28079. My son Brady is a 2nd grader at Fairview Elementary School. We live off of Millgrove Road in a small neighborhood called Oak Grove. We're currently part of the Fairview Piedmont cluster, and we would prefer for that to remain the case. I'd like to first thank you for allowing us to share our thoughts. We've all been following it very closely as it affects our children tremendously. And I, again, thank you for the time that you guys have put into this as well. Brady's been at Fairview since kindergarten, and it's been wonderful. Teachers have been like second moms to him. He's reading on a letter O, which for a second grader is tremendous. I could go on and on about the school, but I only have 3 minutes. We have planted ourselves very much in the Fairview community, been very involved at the school for school events. Brady's played ball at Piedmont Rec since he was 4. We placed him in that rec league so that he would go to school with the same kids that he would play ball with in middle and high, and that was our hope. And so again, could go on and on about the school and the community. We go to church in the community as well. In reviewing the maps, I wanted to spend some time on the maps. In reviewing the maps, it's apparent to me that our neighborhood in particular, Mill Grove Road, Oak Grove subdivision, is right on the bubble. This portion of the maps, we've been slotted to go to 4 different elementary schools during this process. We've been slotted for Fairview, Porter Ridge, Stallings, and now Hemby Bridge. It seems like if this small section of the county can be slotted for so many different schools during this process, that we're not making that big of a difference to any one school. So my hope is that the board will allow for us to stay in the Fairview Piedmont cluster and not disrupt our children, especially considering that the Fairview Elementary School will have a 50% utilization if the current draft is approved. So please, during this process, I ask that you pay particular attention to the maps, especially the BF1 with modifications, which allows us to stay at our same school, our portion of the corner of the area that's being shifted from Fairview, versus the new draft, which for the Oak Grove community would have us going to Hemby Bridge, which is separate from everyone else that's being redistricted in the Fairview community. Everyone else in the Fairview community that's being moved is being moved to Stallings and Porter Ridge. Our neighborhood, which is a neighborhood of about 100 houses with a few other side streets that is developed land, would be moved to Hemby Bridge Elementary School. That would mean my son would go to school with virtually nobody that he knows. He's a very shy kid. It took him a while to come out of his shell at Fairview, and he finally has. So I just ask that you please look at this portion of the map when making your decision. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Good evening. My name is David Eaton, and I live at 1222 Crofton Drive, and here to talk about option BF1, which we, our family and friends, strongly oppose. Really taking a look at the impact on Western Union and Parkwood High and middle schools, see that BF1 will have a really negative impact across a couple different key factors when you take a look at our kids' education. One, the socioeconomic makeup, demographics of the neighborhoods that would be leaving the Western Union and Parkwood cluster. That kind of scales down to and rolls down to parental involvement, volunteerism, and also just the school culture and sense of community. And from an economic standpoint, the issues of capacity don't seem to make a whole lot of sense, taking a look at having a significant portion of the school's children removed from Western Union without anything there to kind of backfill that. Talking about kind of the effects on the actual resources, I wanted to talk about the role of some of the families of the neighborhoods that are up for realignment out of Western Union and Parkwood, the Briarcrest Enclave, Tuscany, and Oak Hill Plantation communities. I think that their impact from a positive standpoint cannot be understated. As someone mentioned just a couple minutes ago, Western Union in just 4 years went from a school with a D rating to a B rating with fantastic culture, pride, and involvement. No coincidence that coincided with the influx of families from those neighborhoods just a couple years ago. With the redistricting of those neighborhoods south of Newtown Road, another familiar stat, we'd be talking about 1/3 of the active volunteers from Western Union no longer being involved in the school. I'm not that familiar with other schools across other parts of Union County, but I can't imagine that there is another school in the Union County public system that risks the loss of such a substantial proportion of parental involvement and student body numbers. When you take a look at a school that was just a D 4 years ago and now is a B and is going to lose a third of its volunteers, I can only imagine what type of change in score anybody who looking at that could project over the next couple of years. I would really encourage the school board to really examine the immediate as well as the long-term effects of removing those communities from Western Union. Talking about capacity, my understanding is that this would affect Parkwood, bringing it to just 78% capacity, while the neighboring schools that would be picking up students, Marvin Ridge, Cuthbertson, and Weddington would then be close to or over capacity.
Thank you very much for your comments.
Our next set of speakers are Eliza Rao, Michelle Malek, and Jamie Schuster.
Eliza Grace Rao, 1100 Emerald Lake Drive, Matthews, North Carolina. Good evening, school board. My name is Eliza Grace Rao, and I'm proud to be a fifth grader at Fairview Elementary School. I'm against redistricting. I've had excellent teachers and made wonderful friends in my 6 years at Fairview. Next year is a hard transition for any child, but now I'm really nervous about going to a new school and being separated from all my friends that will get to go to Piedmont. Over the years, we have grown up together. We've learned and become such great friends. I'm scared to go to a school that's so big. I know it's further to go to Piedmont from my house, but lots of kids will be disappointed to have to switch schools again. My community has been moved so many times back and forth between Piedmont and Porter Ridge. Just since I can remember, it has been 4 times. Our neighborhoods have kids that go to schools all over the place because of this. I'm also sad because my brother is a second grader at Fairview Elementary. Next year, he would have to go to Stallings. My grandmother lives close to Stallings, and the traffic is so bad. Even though Stallings is closer by a mile, we can get to Fairview much quicker because of the traffic. My mom and I looked at the projected numbers of the redistricting happens. Porter Ridge will still be overpopulated. So how is moving us from Piedmont going to help? Fairview will only have 310 kids. This is ridiculous because we already have empty classrooms at our school. Fairview will only be 50% full. I love our community and all of our friends. The teachers are like moms to us. We want to stay with our Piedmont and Fairview family. Thank you very much for your time.
Tough act to follow. My name is Michelle Malek. I live at 615 Birchwood Drive, Waxhaw, North Carolina, 28173. That is the Hunter Oaks subdivision. I have 4 children currently at Rayview Elementary. I am also the PTA president, so I've taken into consideration what people have spoken to me, but today I am speaking as an individual concerned parent. The proposed plan will add almost 30% to Rayview and put us over capacity. The neighborhoods currently attending Rayview are all currently in transition. There are a lot of students there who are in high school and college, and I've spoken to several realtors who have assured me, and I've seen it with my own eyes, that many of the homes being sold are indeed going to younger families with elementary and rising elementary students. So this means that Rayview, you're already putting us at overcapacity. The neighborhoods are turning over, adding more students, which means we'll be way over capacity, bursting at the seams here within the next few years. And as much as I'm sure all of you love realignment and these kind of meetings, we really don't want to do it again in a few years. This plan also splits the students attending Rayview between the 2 middle schools. Again, the strong bonds that are formed, anytime you can keep those kids together, we definitely want to do so. And finally, the resources. Adding almost 30% of children is a lot of children to a school. And as far as getting the resources, getting the school prepared, doing all of that is a big concern for us. But mainly it is that those numbers and putting us over capacity right up front, knowing that those neighborhoods are going to have more elementary age school kids coming soon. I just think that it's an irresponsible choice. Thank you very much.
Good evening. My name is Jamie Schuster. I reside at 7008 Winding Creek Drive in Indian Trail, North Carolina, in the Oak Grove community of Mill Grove Road. I have 2 children who currently attend Fairview Elementary. I've been following the course of this whole procedure for the last 6 months. I filled out surveys, attended meetings, participated in speaking with committee members, and watched countless hours of this process and have been overwhelmed. The beginning of this process had our neighborhood leaving the Fairview Elementary School to attend Stallings. I cannot express how sad this makes our family. Fairview is not just a school to us, but it is a family. My daughter started kindergarten last year and suffered severe anxiety. I was fortunate enough to have one of the most amazing kindergarten teachers who was here this evening, a school counselor, and a staff who worked with us through this ordeal. My child, who threw up every day for 5 months, is now a thriving first grader. My children love Fairview. I feel comforted, they feel safe, and genuinely loved every single day. I have personally a part of the PTO and have spent hundreds of hours volunteering at Fairview. Together, our community has been there for one another through everything. When students have battled cancer, when fellow parents have passed away, we are a community that gives to our school. We are a community that shows up, and we are there when people are needed, because we know how wonderful our school is and how much they care for our children every day. With this original move to Stallings, we were part of the neighborhoods on Lawyer Road and Stevens Mill who were affected. And the only comfort we took in this plan was that our children were moving with friends. However, on January 23rd, the meeting, we learned the new map was being recommended, putting only our neighborhood at Hemby Bridge. I fear this move will be devastating to my children, as our neighborhood has very few children that are our age to make their adjustment with. My other concern is what this map does to Fairview Elementary. The numbers indicate that this new plan puts Fairview at 50% capacity. I don't understand why moving 100+ families from that school with low enrollment already, the fear of multiple teachers and staff being cut makes sense. My understanding was that this process was to help fix problems that occurred 4 years ago with the last realignment in the West End. However, it seems that we are making a mess of our part of the county for no reason. As a mother, I am asking you to think of our children first. These poor children are being asked to move from a school that they adore. Some of these children in this part of town were just moved 3 or 4 years ago. As my neighborhood, we have children, half of them at Porter Ridge Middle School and High School, and half of them at Piedmont. We're losing a sense of community and a sense of school spirit among these schools and families and neighborhoods. When will we be able to put these plans to rest? Is this really what's best for Fairview? And is this really best for our children moving forward? Thank you.
Next, we will have Sherry Newton, Joe Luminoso, and Mike Black.
Good evening. My name is Sherry Newton, and I live in the Providence Grove subdivision at 8100 Penman Springs Drive. My phone number is 704-243-6581. I am a parent of a 10th grader and a 7th grader. Firstly, I would like to thank you all for your hard work and time that you've put into creating a solution to the realignment issues. It is greatly appreciated, and we all realize it has not been an easy task. My family and many of my fellow neighbors have lived in Providence Grove for over 11 years, some even longer. Many of us came from areas far from family and created new lives for ourselves and our children. With that, we dove right into our community headfirst, volunteering for neighborhood committees, town committees, and respectively, our school communities. My husband and myself, and quite a few of the faces in the crowd this evening, have been volunteering for our children's schools in the Cuthbertson district since the opening of the high school in 2009. We have proudly devoted countless volunteer hours to our home school. Our families all have strong ties to the Cuthbertson community, and our children want to continue their schooling in the community they know, love, and many were raised in. They know their teachers, their counselors, their classmates, and their coaches. They have relationships, and we cannot and should not take that lightly. These relationships have been building over the course of a decade or more for some of these children. Our children take pride in their school family and the relationships they have made. They are Cavaliers. Children are resilient. We know this. That's one of the many wonderful qualities about our children. But they should not have to be resilient when it comes to their school and their education. Some of these children were already forced to change elementary schools during the last redistricting, my youngest included, and they should not have to be affected again. They need consistency, and they deserve that. At the stroke of a pen, our children should not be expected to go from being a Cuthbertson Cavalier to a Marvin Ridge Maverick. They are Cavaliers. So I implore you to please allow our children to remain at the school they know and they love, with teachers and staff they have confidently built relationships with. And moreover, allow those that have siblings to remain united in the same school with their family members, rather than be competitors on opposing athletic fields. Thank you for your time and efforts.
Good evening. Joe Luminoso, 313 Barclay Drive, Waxhaw in Inverness. I have no notes in front of me tonight. I just want to say one thing. That young lady, the student who got up here and spoke, I think she spoke for all of us. We're not here because we don't like where you're asking us to go. We're here because we love where we're at. Our children aren't numbers on spreadsheets. Our children aren't pawns that you can move around, change plans, and set expectations early on in this process under expectations that we had 3 options, 1 options. We wake up and there's no options. Very little feedback on our questions on what's going on. So I'll leave this with you. Everybody's here fighting for their children. I'm just going to ask so you can see who's from here, from Providence, Grove, and Inverness. Please stand up. Okay, we're here because we care about our kids, we care about our community, we care about the growth that we're doing. Providence Grove, Inverness specifically, in the last year, every child in that neighborhood has been put in a new school. Every child, because we moved here, or we relocated because of previous redistricting. I'm gonna ask you, you know the story on traffic, you know the story on capacity, you know the story on everything else. Think about what you're doing to our children. Think about what you're doing to our community that we're starting to build. Thank you.
Hi there, my name is Mike Black, 185 Valley Glen Drive in Weddington. First off, I'd like to thank the Citizens Advisory Committee members for their time and consideration. Their hard work and dedication to realign the county was an enormous and thankless task. Taking into account countless emails and input from the public over the last 8 months must have been a big burden. Second, I would like to thank the board for their support and consideration through all of this. The board has been supportive in taking questions, talking, and trying to get the public to understand the process that the committee was undertaking. For our neighborhood, I support the current map that the committee approved and hope that the board will implement that solution. I was happily surprised at the last meeting when the committee approved the option to move our neighborhood back to Weddington Middle and High. This change makes the most sense for our neighborhood. If this is approved, our neighborhood will move from Weddington to Rayview Elementary, and I think that option is I think this option is okay with most of our that our neighbors can live with. A remaining concern regarding the move to Rayview is the SPLASH program and the kids with IEPs. I understand that the board is still hashing out the details on those programs, and I'm sure the board will do what is right. Finally, this board has made it clear to the committee and the public you want kids to attend neighborhood schools, more efficient busing, and lower transportation costs. Sending our kids from our neighborhood to Rayview, Weddington Middle, and Weddington High accomplishes that goal. Again, I want to thank the committee for their time and efforts to make our neighborhood attend the schools that made the most sense. I would hope that the board would agree with these schools, that they're the right ones for our neighborhood. I'd also like to thank the Board of Education for their time and consideration and allowing me to speak here tonight, and I appreciate all they've done and continue to do for Union County. Thank you.
Our next three speakers are Kathy Brundage, Alan Lockridge, and Amy Anthony.
Hello, good evening. My name is Kathy Brundage. I live at 7907 Avanti Drive, Waxhaw 28173, currently in the Providence Glen neighborhood. I'm just here to say that with the new realignment, we would be moving for our third time, and our elementary students would be asked to move for their third time as well. I don't think it's fair to ask our elementary children to keep moving schools as they have formed relationships with their teachers, their peers, their community, and we're asking them to move again. Our middle school children who just began their 6th grade year, as you all maybe remember, middle school is a very difficult time as it is. They have started their school, they've met new friends, they've become a part of their community, and we are asked again to be moved to the new realignment. Our high schoolers who are currently are grandfathered in, and our rising 9th graders who are grandfathered in, they're able to stay in Weddington community where they are. However, parents would be asked to provide transportation. In addition, we would be splitting families because their siblings would not be grandfathered in. So we're creating some conflict in maybe the families out on the fields, playing sports, being able to be a part of one community. We would need to be a part of 2 different school communities. That's difficult. We have parents that work that may not be able to provide transportation, but want to be able to make the best decision for their families and for their children to remain in one school. So I'd really like it, and I would appreciate if you could please consider siblings being grandfathered in. In addition, we have usually generally been in the past redistrictings, been in line with Weddington Chase. And in this redistricting, Providence Glen and Thoreau Farms are the only 2 neighborhoods that are currently being redistricted from Weddington Elementary, Middle, and High to the Marvin School Cluster, Sandy Ridge, Marvin Middle, Marvin High School. So it splits neighborhoods, and it also doesn't allow our children, as we are a very small neighborhood of about 110 homes. Out of that, we have families that aren't affected. We have, their children are raised and grown and graduated. We have families that will be grandfathered in. We have families that, their children go to private school. So we have a very small group of people that our children are being asked to move with, and they're not going to know a lot of faces. Thank you so much for your time.
Hi, good evening. My name is Alan Lockridge. I'm a resident of the Highgate community at 9020 Pine Laurel Drive in Weddington. I live there with my wife, my 7th grade daughter at Weddington Middle School, and my 5th grade daughter at Antioch Elementary School. I'd like to start by thanking the Citizens Advisory Committee, who each took a considerable amount of their personal time for the improvement of our schools and community. And I know, as it said before, it's been a thankless effort. Next, I'd like to express my appreciation to this board for creating an open forum this go-round, whereas a community, we can be involved in the process, we can monitor the options, and we can share our feedback both in person and electronically. The process has enabled small neighborhoods like Highgate to have a voice, which can easily be lost in the aggregate scale of the entire county. We believe the Board of Education ultimately strives to create the best possible academic environment for all of our students. We also realize the realities of managing the academic environment with fiscal responsibility and policy compliance. This sometimes requires some changes in school utilization and capacity. At Highgate, we currently support the BF1 map for our middle school and high school options, which keeps our Weddington kids in Weddington Middle School and High School. And we feel this is doing so at critical times in their lives. You know, middle school children are going through a lot of emotional changes, and keeping that stability in their academic life and their social life can help keep them on the straight path going forward and without disruption. The high school students are focused on colleges and careers and things they need to do for themselves. They're aligning clubs and sports and academics to get to where they need to be, and potential moving them out or having to be driven in by the parents if they don't have capacity to do so could severely impact their long-term opportunities. My neighbor, Amy Anthony, will speak on behalf of some of the elementary school changes, so I won't reiterate that here, but know that she has my support as well. And I think most of the feedback you've received tonight and most of the community really wants their students to stay where they are, right? I mean, they're happy with Union County Schools. That's why we've been moved here, and that's why we want to remain here and remain in our communities. And we feel it's in the best interest for these students to stay where they are in most cases. And as a taxpayer and a parent, it's my highest priority to make sure these kids have the best options for themselves. So thank you for your time.
Good evening. My name is Amy Anthony, and I'm here representing the Highgate community. I live at 3018 Ashford Glen Drive in Weddington. Unfortunately, a lot of our residents couldn't attend tonight due to travel commitments, events at the high school, and also the flu, unfortunately. But I've been asked to speak on behalf of our community in hopes that our children can continue to thrive at UCPS. We truly appreciate the time that has been spent on the plan by the committee and the Board of Education. It's a monumental task, and we understand the complexity. Highgate is grateful that the committee voted to change our assignment back to two of our current schools, Weddington High and Weddington Middle. As we pointed out during the process, many of our children were moved during the last realignment when we were reassigned to Antioch Elementary. Logistically, Highgate is closer to Weddington schools than Marvin schools. There's only one route for our families to get to Marvin. We are required to travel south on Providence Road, and as Dr. McKibben pointed out, quote, Providence Road is a parking lot, end quote. Please note this is only going to get worse when the railroad extension project starts next year. Taking all this into consideration, we feel that it is only logical to let Highgate stay at Weddington Middle and High as spelled out in BF1. At this point, we would like to ask for the board to consider a small tweak to the recommended map. We would like to stay at our current elementary school, Antioch. Our request is based on the following reasons. One, Rayview would be the third elementary school in 5 years for our community. Two, Rayview will have a much higher utilization than Antioch once the realignment occurs, even with the growth projections. Using the enrollment numbers for BF1 and Dr. McKibben's 10-year projections, Antioch would have a utilization of only 86% next year. Rayview would have a utilization of 97%. In year 3, Antioch would be at 82%, while Rayview is at 92%. Additionally, utilization will probably drop even more now that a charter school is moving to their permanent campus less than a mile from Antioch. Next, one bus route currently serves our community as well as two other communities less than half a mile away. Putting our neighborhood out of Antioch would not help the busing efficiency. A bus taking our children to Rayview would have to travel much further to and from the next closest neighborhood. Finally, Highgate currently has 26 students attending Antioch, only 26. Once you remove the 7 rising 6th graders, the 4 dual language students, that leaves only 15 students that would move from Antioch to Rayview. Highgate is the only community moving from Antioch to Rayview. With only 15 students, we don't feel our community would benefit our children or the schools by moving at this time. Just to reiterate, Highgate is asking that you vote for recommended BF1 with the exception of moving our 15 students back to the current elementary school, which is Antioch. We have a very small footprint when it comes to enrollment numbers, but moving our community again would have a large impact on our children. Thank you.
Next, we will have Diane Harrison, Gloria Thomas, and Mary Schroeder.
Does anybody need to stretch? Take a deep breath. Good evening. I'm so thankful to be able to speak to all of you tonight. My name is Diane Harrison, and I moved to Union County in 1990. I moved as a child bride. No, I'm just teasing, but anyways, we moved here in 1990 before Porter Ridge, Weddington, Marvin Ridge, and Cuthbertson were ever even a glimmer in Union County's eyes. It all started for my family in 2003 when we rallied to be districted to the new school being built that all of our surrounding neighbors were being moved to. Since that time, we have been redistricted twice. After the first redistricting, I made the very difficult decision to move my middle school son to Union Academy to ensure that he would never have to be moved again. It was really difficult for Dylan because he had 3 siblings that all graduated from Porter Ridge High School. I know that the prior school board left a big mess for all of you, and I am sorry for that. I understand the difficult decisions that you have to make. I appreciate the compassion you have for all the affected students, especially I'm thankful for all the options that you're offering these people for grandfathering middle and high school students. Our children during our redistricting were never given the opportunity to stay at their neighborhood schools. I do appreciate the board taking their time with the matter at hand. I thank you for hiring professionals to determine actual school capacities and developing an assignment plan to best utilize existing facilities in transportation. I was excited to see an advisory committee representing the entire county included in this process. For the first time, we have confidence in this board we have confidence in this board that has given that you have all been, I'm so sorry, I lost my place, that you have all been extremely open and transparent. The lines in this map are much more established boundaries, rather than certain areas being carved out as has been done in the past. This plan brings kids back to neighborhood schools and utilizes the newer facilities more efficiently while relieving the overburdened older schools. 8 months ago, you unanimously voted to hire professionals to create a plan for Union County schools.
Thank you very much.
I hope you do vote for this plan. Thank you so much for your time.
Okay, good evening. My name is Gloria Thomas and I live in, oh my goodness, I'm losing my thought already. I live at 8037 Stevens Mill Road, Matthews, 28104. And I am here because I wanted to explain how I feel. First, I feel very confident in you guys making the choice of realigning us to Porter Ridge and Stallings, I believe. I'm sorry, I don't have percentages or anything, and I hope I don't let down all the parents behind me, but I wanted to tell you that I moved here 3 years ago. And when I moved here, I was excited. I loved it, the community, the people, everything. I was so happy to be here. I came from Pennsylvania in a rural area. So when I came with the transcripts for my kids, I came in the summer and I dropped them off and I drove to Fairview. And when I drove to Fairview, I was really taken back and surprised on how far it was from where I live. But when I got there, the staff, people, they were so nice. They really welcomed me. They made me feel very comfortable. And that's something that I love about Fairview. I will not deny that. Their staff and the people are amazing. But the distance did make me concerned. Then when I got my bus schedule, and it said we needed to be ready in Stevens Mill at 6:15 a.m. At the time, my kids were 6 and 10 years old. So to try to get them to go outside in the dark and be ready 20 minutes before the pickup time, we had to be standing out there at 5:55 a.m. in the dark. So it's not very easy when you have kids that early in the morning loading a bus. But once again, when the bus driver picked us up, the kids were happy. She was wonderful. So again, the staff did what they were supposed to do. But I wondered, why are we busing these kids so far to the school? And as I got familiar with the area, now I seen schools were so close to where I lived. And I was a little surprised why they were going so far out. But again, the staff played it. It made me feel better. Now I wanted to utilize some of the amenities that the school offers. Well, unfortunately, with the traffic and the distance from where I live and from where I work, I was not making the after-school program, which I had my kids in. I had to pull them out of it because I was spending like $90 extra a week just to keep them in the after-school program. I couldn't send them to tutoring. I couldn't allow them to do reading. I couldn't do any of the after programs because it was so far away. And then when my daughter graduated 5th grade and she had to move to Piedmont, I was shocked when we drove to Piedmont. I couldn't believe the circles and the roads and the back roads and the gravel road. Now remember, I'm from Pennsylvania, so I'm very used to rural. And our schools were only about 6 miles away from where we lived. And that's a rural area. We had country roads and everything. But Piedmont was so far away. And that's what got me. It was the distance more than anything, not the staff. Those people are wonderful. I'm done. But that's what I wanted to point out was distance. Thank you, guys.
Hi, my name is Mary Schroeder. I live at 1408 Rose Hill Drive in the Oak Grove Farm subdivision. Thank you so much for all your hard work with the task of realignment. I have regularly attended committee meetings and have consistently submitted my input regarding the options that I believe best support the goals of the committee. I fully support the hard work of the Citizens Advisory Committee, and they have done tremendous work regarding the proposed school assignments, and I overwhelmingly support Plan BF1 as currently proposed. The Plan BF1 meets the established goals of maximizing transportation efficiency, accounting for further growth, establishing clear feeder patterns, and establishing continuous zones for neighborhood schools. As much as we like Western Union Parkwood Cluster, these schools are simply too far when other schools are closer to our neighborhood that have available space. The Western Union PTO opposition is based on financial contribution and volunteer hours. Other opposition is based only on the fact that their children will lose friends if this move occurs. Neither views address safety or transportation or neighborhood schools. A few people tonight here have referenced my neighborhood of the Oak Grove Farm, but have not spoken to me or any of my neighbors. My daughter is in 3rd grade at Western Union Elementary, and she has many friends and loves her school. She is, however, ready to move to a closer school due to her 50-plus minute bus ride one way every day on treacherous roads and has experienced broken down buses and bad road conditions on more than one occasion. If she moves to Parkwood, the drive time and treacherous road conditions will both increase for her and our neighbors, which does not align with our transportation goals. Please continue to focus on the original task of realignment and maximizing transportation efficiency, accounting for future growth, establishing clear feeder patterns, and establishing continuous zones for neighborhood schools by approving option BF1. Thank you.
Our final 3 speakers are Christine Nunez, Betsy Arndt, and Patrick Garrity.
Hi, I'm Christine Nunez, 8464 Fairgreen Avenue, Waxhaw, and 704-243-7064. I just want to say thank you for listening to me speak last week at the Board of Ed meeting. I hope you took some of my thoughts into consideration, especially in regards to Rayview uses and nearby busing for grandfathering. But tonight I'm actually asking if you would consider just holding off on this redistricting right now. I'm not totally against redistricting, but I just asking if you hold off on it. I feel like people just got acclimated from the previous redistricting. The last redistricting left many bitter. Even volunteerism in the schools dropped that first year. I've spoken to many people about this, and it seems like most people want to stay where they are at. So, okay, you approved most grandfathering, but the problem with that also, besides the traffic, it puts parents in a corner. For instance, a good friend of mine would be moved back to Cuthbertson, but her daughter wants to stay at Parkwood. However, Parkwood is not on my friend's route to work, so here she is, the bad mom. Okay, it is these instances when I really wish grandfathering wasn't an option. Everyone I've spoken to that does not have children in the school system, of course, wants the redistricting to happen for property values. I'm just asking if you could please hold off on this redistricting until we know all the numbers with the charter schools opening, other neighborhoods being built, until all the bond work is complete, for sibling reasons with grandfathering, until HB 13 is decided upon. Especially, please hold off because it is, again, the same children being affected. I feel like our school system finally has it right and is moving in a positive direction. We finally don't have corrupt leaders. We finally have a great superintendent, thank you, who is actually plugged in and genuinely wants the best for each child in UCPS. We finally have a Board of Ed that is trusted by their constituents. We finally have transparency. We wanted it. Too much good is happening, and the children affected previously are finally settled. Quite frankly, it's just too soon. We've got to get it right this time. In all honesty, we can't chance fucking it up again. Good night.
Hello, my name is Betsy Arndt. I'm here representing the Fairview Elementary School PTO. I'm a parent volunteer. I'm also a substitute teacher at the school. And as the PTO president, I feel that I am in a unique position where I get to speak with not only the teachers at our school, but with the parents and families and the children. No one that I have spoken with wants this realignment. Our teachers are worried about their jobs. Our special areas are already down to 4 days a week. What will happen if we lose 50% of our student population? That is 7 students per classroom. That is huge. We're also worried about our assistants that work one-on-one or in small groups with those students that need a little extra help. What will happen to them? Will they be left behind? Our families, they do not want this. Even our families that were redistricted from Stallings, they fought the last realignment, and when I asked if they were coming this evening, many of them said, why bother? Our opinions won't be heard. We believe a decision is already made. Many others wanted to be here, but they are grieving the loss of one of our parents, Erin Abramson, who would have fought for her children to stay at Fairview. This realignment will decimate our school. 50% of our students will be gone. We already have empty classrooms in our building, not just 1 or 2, but 5 that I can think of off the top of my head. Why would we move our students when there are empty rooms to schools with trailers? We are begging you to leave Fairview as it is, to give our families the option of staying put where they want to be, to grandfather their siblings into staying put, and to not divide us the way this current realignment would. We would lose volunteers, we would lose fundraising, and it would have a devastating effect on our entire Fairview community. Thank you for your time.
Good evening. My name is Patrick Garrity. I live at 2509 Maryvale Way, Waxhaw, North Carolina. Phone number is 704-243-7275. I live in Providence Grove, planning block 439. We are currently aligned to the Cuthbertson cluster, and we are planning to move to the Marvin cluster. This decision is not acceptable to our community. The advisory committee created a set of criteria when deciding to realign associations. 6 of the 7 conditions indicate that Providence Grove and Inverness should remain with the Cuthbertson cluster. At first glance, the final standard, balanced school facility utilization, benefits the Marvin cluster. However, upon further examination, moving Providence Grove, Inverness to the Marvin cluster is like throwing a pebble in the ocean. The Marvin cluster needs a solution. The current proposal is not it. I provided the board an email today that showed a table of the upcoming charter schools and private schools. Looking at a 2018 enrollment of 2,300 students. And in 2020, calling those schools, doing the research, the planned enrollment is 4,445 students. That calls for 2,100 students to leave the Union County Public Schools. Yet these factors are not recognized in the proposal you received from Mr. Cropper. Begs the question, why? How can you make a well-informed decision without all of the data? I'm also concerned why the board, when they had the chance to question Mr. Cropper, didn't ask more questions during the meeting. On November 2nd, the advisory meeting, the committee hesitated to vote on any plan because of the changes in the charter school impact, and yet they were told to continue on forward. I don't understand why. In my opinion, the go-forward strategy for the board is clear. In many circumstances, associations and schools are agreeable to the realignment. Fantastic. The board should allow those changes to be implemented. Where a community and school are not in agreement, the board should stop. For those that were in the meetings 3-4 years ago, this is a much different group than what was here. It would not take a lot to allow these communities to stay in their current schools they're asking. Realignment should not be an event. It should be an ongoing examination of the enrollment trends and competitive threat to UCPS. Sections of the county where enrollment is a concern, focus on a long-term sustainable solution. 3 years ago, many children were disrupted by a poorly designed plan.
Thank you very much for your comments.
For Providence Grove,
We'll have our
Inverness,
next speaker now.
we are not cured for the declining enrollment at Marvin. Negatively impacting our children again is inexcusable.
Okay, thank you, everyone. That concludes all of the parents that have signed up to speak tonight. Board, are there any announcements that need to be made? Okay. The one announcement I will remind everyone of is of our work session meeting on February 27th. Next door at the PDC. It will be open to the public, but it will be for the board to do our work session and come together and work on all of these issues. If there are no other announcements, I will accept a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Second.
All those in favor? Aye.